This is Mel's Loveland, Sunday Talks. We had an interesting week. We decided to dive a little bit more deeply into what would be an AI podcast, utilizing a couple characters, discussing our plans, Mel's Loveland's plans for the future. The following, with a few annotations by me, is the result. I hope you enjoy it.
Ever wish the world could, just dial up the love a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to dive into this Mel's Loveland.
Okay.
And it's this media platform, right? And they've got this pretty audacious goal. They want to infuse the world with loving stories.
Interesting.
What really struck me right away
Yeah.
is this question that their founder, Melanie Lutz, asks. It's like, what if all our thoughts were loving?
Right.
It seems so simple, but it's actually kind of profound when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. It really makes you think. It has huge implications.
Right.
Not just through their content, but by actually, encouraging other people to join the movement and make their own love-driven work.
That's so cool. And you know what else I noticed? They're even offering production services.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They call it All Systems Love. Why is it important for them to weave in this eco-conscious element?
Well, I think it shows that they recognize that love isn't just about human relationships.
Yeah.
It's about caring for the planet too, right?
Exactly.
And future generations.
Yeah.
That's a form of love.
Totally.
And by actually making their production sustainable, it shows that they're really committed.
Yeah. Not afraid to take a stance. Creating a more loving world, right?
Yeah.
And they even use this phrase. They want to tell decolonized, empowering stories rooted in wholeness.
Wow.
That decolonized stories part really stood out to me.
All right, now we're into it. The explanation, the characters have discussed what Mel's Loveland is. A loving, storytelling media company. Great. Now, how does your perception shift if the man is the head of global studio operations and the woman is the neuroscientist discussing the survival of the planet?
What do you think that means about how they're approaching this?
It seems like they want to
Yeah.
challenge those dominant narratives, and bring in more diverse voices.
Totally.
Because by using the term decolonized, it's like they're acknowledging that traditional stories
Right.
often just reflect one worldview.
Yeah.
And they want to broaden that.
Absolutely. And I think that raises some really interesting questions. It's
What?
well, whose stories actually end up getting told? And what happens when, different cultures have different ideas about love and those ideas clash?
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's definitely not simple, right? It's not like you can just slap a love label on something
Exactly.
and call it a day,
Yeah.
You have to actually think about it, wrestle with it,
Yeah.
all the complexities.
All about biophilia, that love of all living things. So it's they're connecting love to this bigger picture,
Yeah.
our relationship with the planet, how everything's connected.
But is this just a trendy buzzword? Or can it actually change how people see the world?
Can a media platform actually change people's minds?
Right.
Are they trying to create individual change, societal change? What's the goal here?
I think they're going for both.
Yeah.
On an individual level.
They seem to be encouraging personal growth
Yeah.
through their content and resources.
Okay.
They have this whole section that's called More Love on the website,
Oh, cool.
dedicated to that.
Okay.
At the same time, they're also aiming for broader change by promoting love activism to help create this more loving world.
So they're building a community around this.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a movement, almost.
It reminds me of, what? Let's save that thought for later.
Okay.
First, I want to dig into this more love section a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what kind of resources are we talking about here?
It looks like a mix of
Yeah.
practical tips,
Okay.
inspirational stories,
Cool.
and prompts for you to reflect on your own life.
Okay, so they're really trying to help people develop a more loving way of looking at the world?
Exactly.
Got it. So it's not just about romantic love or even just love between people. They're looking at this as a much bigger idea.
Absolutely.
Something that affects every part of our lives.
Their focus on wholeness.
Right.
It's a holistic approach.
Okay.
You know, your inner world, your relationships, your connection to nature.
And they seem to be pretty serious about funding this whole thing.
Yeah.
They're encouraging donations, and there's even stuff about love activism and give back love.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Right. They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Yeah, their funding model's really interesting.
Yeah.
It reflects a trend we're seeing more and more, where these platforms are finding different ways to bring in money
Yeah.
to support their work. It's not just about profits anymore.
Right.
It's about finding a way to be sustainable
Yeah.
so they can keep spreading their message and actually make a difference.
Okay, so we've talked about their vision, their approach, their commitment, but let's get practical for a sec. How are they actually turning these big ideas into action? So it's not just about like them putting out content. They're really trying to build a community of creators, people who are actively involved in spreading this message of love.
It's a two-way street, you know.
Totally.
It's not just them talking at an audience.
Yeah.
It's more like people working together to get this vision of a more loving world out there.
It kind of reminds me of that open source movement
Oh, yeah.
in software development.
I see that.
Where like collaboration and sharing knowledge is so important. It's like they're applying that same idea to love.
Absolutely. It's about giving people the power to control the narrative and be part of something bigger than themselves.
But creating content is one thing.
Right.
Getting people to actually see it and be affected by it.
Right.
That's a whole other challenge, you know. So how are they dealing with that?
They're using a bunch of different strategies.
Okay.
Like they're on social media,
Okay, yeah.
spreading the word, working with influencers who share their values.
Smart.
And they're even partnering with schools
Oh, cool.
to introduce these ideas to younger generations.
So it sounds like they're being pretty strategic
Yeah,
about getting their message out there.
definitely.
But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the content itself, right?
Right.
Like, can love-driven content actually compete
Yeah.
in a media landscape that's so full of negativity and sensationalism?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's easy to think it's all just naive or too idealistic. But you know what? Studies have actually shown that positive content can have a bigger impact on people
Really?
than negative stuff.
Interesting.
It can give people hope, make them more empathetic,
Yeah.
and even motivate them to go out and do good things.
You know, when I was looking into Mel's Loveland, I was reminded of that Mr. Rogers quote.
Yeah.
Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.
I love that quote.
And it seems like that's what Mel's Loveland is doing, you know?
Yeah.
They're showing us the helpers, the good things that are happening in the world.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a feel-good distraction.
Right.
It's offering a different perspective than all the negativity we see so much of.
Absolutely.
But let's be real.
Yeah.
There are some really powerful forces out there that actually benefit from all this division and negativity.
Yeah.
So can a platform like this actually make a difference?
It's kind of a David and Goliath situation.
Right.
But even small acts of love
Yeah.
can have a ripple effect.
Sure.
You know? So if they can just inspire a few people
Yeah.
to be more loving and compassionate,
Right.
that could really add up over time.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
if we're at some kind of turning point. Because it seems like people are craving content that uplifts them, inspires them.
Right.
People want connection and meaning in a world that feels so chaotic and disconnected.
Absolutely. I think you're right.
Yeah.
People are tired of all the negativity. They want something real,
Yeah.
something hopeful.
Totally.
And platforms like Mel's Loveland,
Yeah.
they're tapping into that.
They are. So they're not just creating content. They're actually responding to a real need
Yeah,
that people have.
for sure. But as they grow,
Right.
what kind of challenges do you think they'll face?
I'm curious about that too. What do you think?
Well, I think one challenge is staying authentic as they get bigger.
Right.
It's easy to lose that personal touch
Yeah.
as you expand, you know. So they'll need to be careful
Yeah.
to stay true to their values
Right.
and not become just another like
Yeah.
faceless media company.
Totally. So it's not just about putting content out there.
Yep.
It's about creating content that connects with people,
Yeah,
starts conversations, inspires them to take action.
absolutely. It's about planting seeds of love.
I like that.
And watching them grow.
And those seeds can grow in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
In places we might not even imagine.
Totally.
That's what's so cool about this kind of work. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
It's unpredictable. It's organic.
Yeah.
And it has the power to change. Not just individuals.
Right.
But entire communities.
Whole communities, yeah.
AI characters created from content I've written talk about the nameless, faceless media company, and then gets into tender material about planting seeds and how seeds blossom. Now, this is a projection from content I have created and talked about, shared, and worked on, and grown through. And the mirror fed back to me through two characters to come into form. Crazy, they call me crazy, maybe. Mel's Loveland is organic, artisan-based, collaborative, of the community, mutual aid, breaking norms of what has been a system designed to support a few at the expense of the many. Let's do better.
Speaking of communities, I want to go back to that thought I had earlier.
Okay.
About Mel's Loveland reminding me of something. You know, it hit me when you were talking about the open source movement.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're trying to create an open source model for love.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about collaboration, sharing knowledge, working together.
Right.
It's like breaking down the walls between creators and the audience. Yeah.
And inviting everyone to be part of this love revolution.
Exactly.
And it's not just about, like, making content. It's about creating a whole culture of love.
Right.
Where kindness and compassion and empathy are just the norm, not something special.
The fault, yeah.
Yeah, and where we celebrate our shared humanity and recognize that we're all connected.
That's beautiful. It's a big goal.
It is.
But culture is always changing, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's fluid.
No.
And every act of love, every story of hope, every time we show kindness, that contributes to that change.
Totally. So Mel's Loveland is more than just a media company.
Yeah.
It's like a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
A beacon of hope, a reminder that love isn't just a feeling. It's a force.
Yes.
That can really change the world.
Absolutely. So it makes you wonder.
Yeah.
What would happen?
If we all actually lived by this idea of love.
Right.
You know, in our lives, our work, our relationships.
What kind of world would that be?
It's a powerful question to think about.
It is. And as we keep exploring Mel's Loveland, we're going to look at how this love-centric approach can impact our well-being, social change, and the future of media.
Right.
But for now, let's just sit with this idea of an open source model for love. What does that mean to you? How can we all be part of spreading love and kindness in the world?
It's a good question.
So thinking about this open source model for love, it makes you wonder, like, can you really scale love the same way we scale technology?
That's a really interesting question. I think to answer it, we got to remember, love isn't like some limited resource. It's not something that runs out when you share it.
Right.
It's actually the opposite. The more you give love, the more it grows. Like
it multiplies. It's like that saying, a love begets love.
Yeah, exactly.
But how do we go beyond, you know, just the warm fuzzies?
Right.
And actually turn that love into real action?
Well, Mel's Loveland talks about love activism.
Okay.
Which is basically about, you know, living your values, taking that love you feel, and using it to make the world better.
So it's not just about being nice to people.
Right. It's bigger than that.
It's about fighting for justice and equality.
Yeah.
Protecting the planet. Really putting your love into action.
Absolutely.
And that can look like a lot of different things, right?
It can. And I think that's where Mel's Loveland's focus on eco-storytelling comes in.
Okay, yeah.
They're trying to weave love into our culture, make it a core value that influences everything we do.
So it's about creating a world where love isn't just something we talk about, but something we live.
Exactly. It's got to be in everything we do.
Yeah.
Our decisions, our relationships, how we treat the planet.
And that takes a real change in how we think, right?
It does. We have to shift away from this scarcity mindset that leads to competition and greed and move towards an abundance mindset where we recognize our interconnectedness and celebrate what we share as humans.
It's a big vision.
It is.
But it feels more and more important in a world that's so divided. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Mel's Loveland, I'm left with this feeling of hope. Like maybe, just maybe, love really can win.
I think so.
And maybe that's the most important thing we can take away from this.
What do you mean?
Mel's Loveland is showing us that love isn't just a feeling. It's a way of being in the world.
It is.
That can lead to a better future.
Absolutely. A more just, compassionate, sustainable future.
Exactly. It's like an invitation to tap into that power.
Yeah.
And let it transform the world.
Beautiful.
And remember, like Mel says, what if all our thoughts were loving?
Thanks for joining us on our Sunday night talk. May each day bring us more joy, more power, and more grace. Until next week.